My own theory about Fukushima and the many failing reactors we're hearing about today is that this is a grand cover story for what could be called the EMF killing fields. 50 years of peer-reviewed studies confirm that radio frequency microwave radiation is just as harmful as nuclear radiation. A victim's words, quote, "Our mutated cells will reproduce new mutated cells until the body finally shuts down." Epidemiologist George Carlo forewarned of an explosion of cancers and serious neurological injuries that would begin to appear right about now as a result of millions of people using wireless technology for a solid decade. The key is chronic use, repeated exposure. The world today has 7 billion people and 5 billion cell phone users. That leaves 2 billion people who have no cell phones, people who are known as the absolute poor. Here are the results for a tower and antenna search at our location in downtown Los Angeles for a 3-mile radius. 96 towers found, 8 registered, 88 not registered. Now that's towers, the big ones. 96 in a 3-mile radius. Oops. Here is the antenna results. So 613 cellular antennas in a 3-mile radius. So you add the 613 to the 96, and you don't get a pleasant number. There was no pre-market testing of wireless phones or technology before it was unleashed and the industry deregulated. That was 1996, the deregulation. Though researchers advised that phones should be redesigned to minimize radiation to consumers, the new flat rectangular phones are made to be placed in the shirt pocket or pants pocket instead of being clipped on the belt. In the city of Guangzhou, China, you find the biggest cell phone, I could call it the cellular selling fields, China's biggest foreign trade center with knockoff cell phones that are sold by the barrel. African chiefs come in person or send emissaries. The government estimate for China's exportation of cell phones was 750 million in 2010, and that is just the government estimate. The names are Samsung with an N, Motorola, L-O-A, and the prices are 1/5 of what the real brands cost. This is how we have now 5 billion cell users, and that number will only grow. Now remember this, the telecom industry is not concerned about laws passed in small countries like Holland over cell phone use. They are waiting to gobble up a world market in countries where population is swelling and everyone wants to talk to everyone else. From a program on CNBC, I learned that cell phone service in India is a mere 50 cents a month. More Indians have access to a cell phone than they have to a toilet. With sights on these giant expanding markets, millions of new enthusiasts coming on board each month, telecom can be easily made to fit wallets all over the world. The human cost of radiation in the radiation age is showing up as abnormal neurology and abnormal psychology. Radioactive fallout from bombs and wireless radiation, it all creates the same biological damage. One just takes longer than the other. Physicist Ernest Sternglass pointed to intelligence deficit in high school students who were born during peak world fallout. Irradiation of populations, and I can use a lot of words here, compromises, damages, destroys, hurts their neurology. Neurology means the brain, signals to the muscles, intelligence and personality. Intellectual and behavioral abnormalities caused by neurological brain injuries. That's what radiation does. Telecom, on the heels of radioactive fallout, is irradiating the world's population. And radiation combined with vaccines not only does double damage, but chains of man-made concoctions are injected into the body on a schedule. Vaccines are administered to children in CDC-recommended schedules, monthly, yearly, continually. These materials combine with our biology and redirect our chemistry. And then we have nanotechnology, nanobiotechnology. We are promised now by futurists and pioneer visionaries like Ray Kurzweil that nanobots introduced into every living thing and every inanimate thing will make the entire universe intelligent and responsive. Nanobots will clean up our bodies. They will enable us to do everything better, from running the mile to thinking and digesting our food. No one will be able to imagine a life without nano help because, are you ready for this? No one will be able to survive without it. We will be so biologically compromised by the sweep of assaults to our bodies and brains and immune systems that we will require nano intervention, medicine with nanobots as its mobile army, going into our bodies to give us a hand. Our bodies will fail in the future ahead of us without nanotechnology. You could say that atomic bomb detonation, testing, and the fallout that came down on us was phase 1 of the Manhattan Project. Modern medicine and big pharma could be described as phase 2. The effects of chemicals made into miracle drugs in our bodies is cytotoxic, neurotoxic, and immunosuppressive. The effect of vaccines changes and weakens our internal chemistry. Food allergies are largely the result of protein and oil molecules in the vaccines, entering the bloodstream directly and bypassing the digestive tract. Radiation medicine for diagnostics and treatment is more destructive to the body than the cancers that it claims to address. We as a species are much less strong and resilient than we once were. We have learning disabilities, attention disorders, problems processing food. We have chronic fatigue, osteoporosis, autoimmune dysfunctions, dementia, cancer, fake knees and hips. Here are photos of David Brower, an early environmentalist, head of the Sierra Club, rock climbing in simple tennis shoes. People less than a century ago were a lot stronger than we are. They did not have to contend with the kind of immunosuppressive stressors that we are succumbing to today. You can imagine as the third world becomes westernized, and I use that word in quotes, how many more people, billions, will be affected by systemic degeneration and loss of health. And it isn't just about profit. Here's a statement by a government scientist made to CNN back in 1985.
But in the Soviet Union, a radio frequency, or RF device, has been used for over 30 years to manipulate the moods of mental patients. It's called a LIDA machine. It radiates pulses of radio frequency energy, as well as light, sound, and heat. The pulse rate is in the extremely low frequency range, between 0 and 100 pulses per second. Dr. Ross Adey is the top researcher at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Loma Linda, California. He has been investigating the effects of the LIDA machine.
Now, what do the Soviets use this machine for? Well, they don't use it anymore. We should be very clear that this is a machine which is regarded by them as somewhat obsolete technologically.
This scientist, who did not want his identity revealed, is employed by the U.S. government and has done secret RF weapons research. He believes that tests done with the LIDA and similar machines prove that humans are susceptible to remote alterations of mood and awareness.
Certain kinds of weak electromagnetic signals work exactly like drugs. And so the promise is that anything you can do with drugs, you could do with the right electromagnetic signals. Apparently, there are specific sites involved, specific functions involved. It's a matter of matching up, just like it is with a pill or a drug, to cause and effect. You could have a cause and effect relationship between a magnetic field and a biological function.
The radiation age has now moved into its low-level, ubiquitous phase. Think about it, how much more prevalent the distribution of effects is when the method is everywhere at once. Distributing pharmaceuticals involved a person going to a doctor or drugstore to receive a treatment, and then that person having to take the pill or apply the treatment, a slow onesie-twosie method. Yet the side effects and changes were noted nonetheless, with occasional news breaking and drugs pulled as people became sicker. Regulation, should they or shouldn't they, is the working dialectic in the FDA big pharma game, where one oversees the other, although both are actually scratching each other's backs. If it's true that the effect of pharmaceutical drugs can be matched by EMFs, then this will be the basis of the newest form of radiation medicine. The day may come that allopathic medicine will be seen as barbaric, a thing of the ignorant past. Can you imagine they gave toxic chemicals as medicine, the way leeches were applied a couple of 100 years ago? The medicine of the future will be all about frequencies. Scanners will use frequencies to read, analyze, correct, heal, prevent, and forestall all kinds of problems. Instead of taking a drug, people will receive a frequency matched to their biological ailment. While this may sound fantastic and very progressive, it will only be more radiation in more forms, pushing the tolerances of our biology. We have already been subjected to 100 years of chemical pollution, chemical products, chemically laced foods. Our bodies contain thousands of man-made chemical residues which have made us toxic and diseased. Today, the etiology of disease in the Western world is not so much pathogenic or bacterial as it was in an earlier age. It is far more likely to be due to chemicals and radiation. The germ theory of disease no longer explains what's happening to us. We are being told these days that viruses cause disease, that our genetics predispose us to having certain problems. You can be sure that the nuclear genetic medicine of the future will use new kinds of radiation devices for prevention and remediation of illness. It will be said that with, quote, regular treatment, unquote, the scanners will change our inherited predispositions and help to prevent the conditions we have markers for. Just as polio was given many new names, health problems of our future will be given new names, creating new research programs and funding to keep everyone busy. Thanks to sanitation and hygiene, we are no longer battling germs, but nor are mutating viruses waiting to get us. The real basis of our problem is that we are up against an impulse matrix that uses signals and foreign materials in a systematic effort to change what and who we are. In 1956, experiments with radiating canned food using gamma rays resulted in the discovery of Deinococcus radiodurans, the world's toughest bacteria that actually made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. D. radiodurans, as they call it, is radiation resistant. In fact, it loves radiation. It gobbles up nuclear waste, and it tolerates 3,000 times the radiation that humans can withstand. Ordinary cells cannot fix a lot of damaged DNA, but D. radiodurans can repair more than 200 breaks because its DNA is locked tightly in a ring, a toroid, preventing broken bits from floating away. D. radiodurans developed somehow, fortifying itself against shattering radiation. It can also withstand extremes of temperature like no other microbial form. So the question is, how did it get that way? Did it form naturally, on Mars originally, as some have suggested, or was it created by mutation, the result of man's experiments? Like D. radiodurans in its infancy, we are facing a similar, intensely hostile environment. Microwave radiation pulsing through our urban world today could very well be the newest phase of a giant experiment. With the signing of the Atomic Energy Act in 1946, the Manhattan Project became the Atomic Energy Commission, which created the Joint Committee on Atomic Energy. This was an independent, all-powerful congressional entity, the most powerful secret committee in modern history, free from oversight and with legislative authority. It was done away with in 1977, the same year the Atomic Energy Commission was renamed the Department of Energy. Today, the Department of Energy is known as the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP, D-E-E-P. Its ostensible focus, exploring production of energy for the welfare of the planet and protection of the environment, when the environment is really being taken apart and changed. With nanobiotechnology and piezoelectricity, new forms can be created and controlled. I call them pseudo-life forms because they work in imitation of nature, like nature, but not nature. The substrates of biological life, whether engineered or not, can be joined together and orchestrated to perform just like life. This can go on inside or outside our bodies. Frequencies speak to everything, for as we know, everything is made of waveforms and frequencies. Once you have the building and performance codes of living and inanimate things, you can build anything. You can make anything happen. At a TED conference,